Hi Reds, today we have to talk not about victory, not about character, and not even about traditional Liverpool belief, but about what's happening with Ten Hag's team. Slot. Sorry. I deliberately called it Slot's team because this isn't Liverpool, it's not even Everton. This is already the 6th defeat in 7 matches, and it feels like we are watching a team that has simply lost control of events. Today we'll figure out who's to blame, what to do, and who to replace Slot with. This is LFC Live, let's go! The last 2 times we lost 6 out of 7 were in 2012 under Kenny Dalglish and in 2021 under Klopp. However, that was strictly in Premier League matches. With Arne Slot, this run covers all competitions. But how did it come to this? Let's start with the fact that Slot made 10 changes to the lineup at once. That's a huge risk, even if we are talking about the Carabao Cup, which isn't a priority for most top clubs. He gave chances to the youngsters, 3 teenagers in the starting 11 and 5 more on the bench. Goalkeeper Freddie Woodman made his debut, as did 18-year-old Kieran Morrison, and among the regulars, only Milos Kerkez kept his place from the Brentford match. It seemed logical. Manage workloads before a series of key games against Aston Villa, Real and Man City. But the experiment proved painful, not just because of the result, but because of the lack of any structure, discipline, and even a hint of team identity. Liverpool actually started the match fairly well. The youngsters looked bold. Rion Gumoa took on defenders. Chiesa tried to drive the play forward, but as soon as Crystal Palace upped the tempo, everything fell apart. Ismail Assar scored twice in 4 minutes at the end of the first half, and it felt like a verdict. Both goals were the result of systematic defensive failures, not individual errors, but structural breakdowns. Slot decided for the first time to use a back 3, Gomez, Endo, Robertson. On paper, the idea looked fine. Mirror Oliver Glasner's 3-4-3 with Crystal Palace. But reality showed that the Reds didn't understand the setup. Players didn't know how to shift correctly, who should cover when the flanks were left empty. Gomez left losing his position, and Endo, who isn't a natural centre-back, simply couldn't read the play in time. Those exact mistakes led to Sarr's goal. First from a rebound, then through a split in the middle of the defense. In attack, the team looked toothless. Yes, the youngsters tried to create through the wings, but there was no connection between the lines. Without Szoboszlai, Wirtz, Salah and Gakpo, there was no one to take responsibility on the ball. Chiesa had 2 chances, but squandered both. In midfield, there was no control. McAllister and Endo couldn't cover space, and Palace passed through the center with ease. This wasn't just about player quality, it was about organization. Another factor, the psychology. After the first goal, the team seemed to break. There was no connection, no attempt to fight back, even the stands fell quite quickly. The second half only made things worse. Instead of strengthening the side, Slot brought on 2 more young centre-backs, Veli Tilaki and Amara Nalo. It became the symbol of the evening. 12 minutes after coming on, Nalo received a red card for bringing down Devaney, who was clean through on goal. A second half sending off in the second match for the first team. It feels like a metaphor for Slot's whole situation. Everything is going wrong, and even attempts to fix it make things worse. At the end, Pino scored a 3rd, and it wasn't just sealing the result. It was humiliation in front of our own fans. Crystal Palace sang, "Can we play you every week?" That perhaps hurt the most at Anfield. And now the question, what isn't working? First and foremost, this system. Arne Slot Liverpool has lost the balance between control and energy. The team doesn't understand how to press when the shape changes, doesn't know who's responsible for chance creation. Under Klopp, the system lived and breathed through every player. Now it's a set of separate parts that don't connect. Slot is trying to play his own football, with an emphasis on ball control and positional patterns. But Liverpool wasn't built for that. Players who are used to living in constant motion can't adapt to a passive style. The second factor, the defense. Liverpool concede in almost every match, often first. This is the 7th match in a row starting from behind. Konate and Van Dijk are either injured or out of form. Gomez is inconsistent. Endo isn't a centre-back at all. The youngsters aren't ready for that level of responsibility. And on the flanks, Kerkesh and Ramsey look like they are seeing a top-level opponent for the first time. The third aspect, psychological pressure. 6 losses in 7 isn't a coincidence. It's a crisis of confidence. Players seem afraid to take the ball, afraid to make mistakes. The atmosphere at Anfield has changed too. Instead of belief, silence. Instead of anger, bewilderment. That's the scariest thing, because the team that built its power on emotion has lost it. And now the hardest question. What's next? Who could replace Arne Slot if the board decides they have run out of patience? Bookmakers already list Oliver Glasner of Crystal Palace as favored. Ironically, the very coach who has now beaten Slot 3 times in a row in the Super Cup, the Premier League, and now in the Carabao Cup. Glasner looks a logical choice. His system works. His teams are disciplined and players push their limits. But would he become a symbol of Liverpool's revival? Unlikely. He is a good tactician, but not someone who unites a club around himself. There are other names on the list. Andoni Iraola at Bournemouth, young, brave, and his team are currently in the top 4. Zinedine Zidane, big name, but question about whether he'd take a project mid-season. Julian Nagelsmann, a modern German school coach, but his approach might run into the same issues as Slot's. Liverpool's squad isn't built for excessive tactical flexibility. There is also the more emotional option. Jurgen Klopp's return. Fans dream of it, and you can't say it's impossible. Klopp has said more than once that he left part of himself at Anfield. His return would look romantic, but would it be right for the future? Probably not. Klopp left when he felt his energy was spent. Coming back now would look like trying to save the past, not build the future. So the question of whether to sack Slot now isn't straightforward. Yes, the results are catastrophic, but the season isn't lost yet. Liverpool still have a chance in the Champions League, and in the Premier League the point of no return hasn't been reached. Perhaps giving Slot a chance isn't weakness, but on the contrary, a logical step. He must draw conclusions, admit mistakes, reduce experiments, and return to simpler football. Energetic, vertical, with pressing. Exactly the kind that fans love and that suits this squad. If not, if everything keeps collapsing, then changing the manager will be inevitable. But the main thing is not to repeat other clubs' mistakes by making emotional decisions. Arsenal once stood on the edge with Arteta, but they gave him time and got results. Liverpool can do the same. Yes, right now Arne Slot looks like Erik ten Hag in his worst period at United. No ideas, the dressing room lost, helpless on the pitch. But unlike Ten Hag, Slot still has a certain credit of trust. He led the team to the title in his debut season, and you can't just write that off. And finally, friends, a few words about hope. Yes, it hurts now. Yes, the results are awful, but Liverpool's history is a story of revival. We've seen the team rise from its knees more than once. We've seen it coming back after finals, defeats, humiliation. This moment is another challenge. Every crisis is an opportunity. Young players have gained experience you can't get in training. The team has realized that titles aren't won by inertia. Now we need not to point fingers, but to unite. Club, fans, players, everyone needs to remember what the Liverpool spirit is. We are not about wins. We are about belief, about character, about fighting to the end. The next matches against Aston Villa, Real, and Manchester City aren't a sentence, they are a chance. If the team can respond, if we see that same energy, that you'll never walk alone in their hearts, then everything can still be fixed. And if not, then a new era will begin. But even then, we'll be there, because this is Liverpool. And even when it seems everything is lost, we know the darkest night comes before the dawn. And one thing remains unchanged. You will never walk alone. Remember that. Bye-bye.